Hey guys, this will be video 6 for the how to design build a chambered body 58 Flying V replica out of Honduran Mahogany. And I got the guitar out of the paint booth finally. It's been drying for days, probably about 7 or 8 days. Uh, but I did do a little bit additional face overlay work there. I won't start talking about that because it's not finished, but nonetheless, that's just what it takes to build a guitar. But the Stinger is finished. Very happy with that. Turned out well. And it might look kind of rough because it's not finished, meaning it's only been wet sanded up to 1500 grit. So I've still got some polish work to do. But the neck feels like heaven. I mean, it's just incredible. Feels great. Not only the feeling of it, but the actual profile. Well, it's just the neck that I build, which is based on the late 50s jazz guitar. It's not super fat or thick, but it's not thin at all, and it feels really good. We've covered this 7/8 of an inch thick at the first fret location, right at about 1 inch thick at the 11th fret location, with an initial 1 inch radius roundover, then hand shaped to a vintage heel. And what does that feel like? Feels like a 59 Les Paul, which is basically a jazz guitar, and just feels incredible. Okay, so the cool thing about the nitrocellulose lacquer is it really cures. It gets a more articulate note, or very well defined. If you had have sprayed this with like a cheap, hardware store paint, wouldn't have sounded anything like that at all. And I've heard Joe Glazer talk about his early guitar builds where he had attempted using like an automotive lacquer, and it was a beautiful color that he was able to achieve, but he was talking about how it literally just destroyed the tone of the guitar. So if you're going to build a guitar and you really want to sound incredible, you need to make certain to be prepared to invest probably upwards of $150 to $200 just in the nitrocellulose lacquer to do the finish work on one guitar. Okay, it's not cheap at all. And I probably need to do the math on it. I'm looking over at my my shelf over there. There's literally about $600 or $700 worth of just aerosol cans and quart cans and empty gallon cans of the lacquers that I use to build these guitars. That's where the tone really is, I think, after you build a good guitar. Pretty rare, the tortoise binding, which is actual true celluloid. The stuff stinks like the devil. It smells like real harsh turpentine as you're cleaning it. But if anything, to me, it gives that real cool vintage vibe when you walk into your shop and it smells like an old French artist paint shop where there's brushes in the turpentine and stuff like that. It's pretty cool. But anyway, okay, I'm not going to talk about how to do the finish work at all. Period. Just going to stop talking about it. It's just way too much information because I want to talk about wiring harnesses and how to get your guitar finished. So let's do that. We got the pickups in days ago. The client sent me the Seymour Duncan Pearly Gates. Really nice. Still have the new car smell. So those are awesome. We'll talk about those briefly. But when we're talking about how do we end up with, this right here, and guaranteed that we drilled these exactly in the proper location whilst planning to finish the guitar and it to function properly, then we want to be working from templates. I know that's a given for a lot of you guys, but I think a lot of people have a tendency, I'll just say that some people have a tendency to underestimate how detailed it is to build an actual guitar. And I'm not gonna continue talking about the theoretical aspects of that or the mind-numbing aspects of how quickly you can screw a job up. I'm just going to talk about, try to take the time to build a template, if anything out of cardboard, just so that you can put all these items in the appropriate location when you're getting ready to solder them together. But before you solder everything together, let's make sure that we build the guitar that we want to see, well, that we want to feel and play first, and then, excuse me, and then that we want to see. And I'll try not to digress here, but I very quickly, in the initial design stages, am thinking about what it is am I going to see when the guitar is leaning up against the wall. So let's just start from there. Let's start from what it is that we see. Well, we see three potentiometers, a three-way selector, and these two little toggles here that we don't know, that nobody knows what that is until someone tells them what that is. And without looking at these two toggle switches right here, this is basically just a traditional 1958 per, guitar replica per 58 guitar specs, Flying V specs. Master tone, bridge volume, neck volume, switchcraft three-way selector that will be prepared to receive a deep well nut, and that will give it kind of a vintage look, especially if you're going through wood. If you were going into a pick guard, then you would use the flat nut. But once you add these two little toggles right here, now we've entered into the realm of the customization of an otherwise vintage layout guitar. And with that, however, we also introduced the functionality from a visual standpoint, because I can look at that and immediately make the determination, okay, I'm going to be playing, as soon as I pull the trigger on this guitar, I'm going to be powering up both pickups, and both pickups are going to be in series, and wherever the numbers are on the potentiometer, on the top hat knobs, wherever that number is, that's going to tell me what kind of sound I'm probably going to get. I do not like the push-pull pots because I just don't. I never have liked that design. I like the idea of being able to look at that and tell you exactly what's about to happen when I pull the trigger on that guitar. And that's going to be strictly the neck position in parallel with the bridge pickup. If I arm either both pickups or the bridge pickup alone, the bridge pickup will be in series while the next pickup is remaining in parallel. Okay, if I'm in the middle, then I know that location right there, I just switch the neck pickup from parallel to a split coil. The bridge pickup is still armed and dangerous in series, ready to do my lead solos when I go straight down. Now you see what I'm saying? So from a standpoint of what it is you see, this is so much more intuitive. And from a player's standpoint, I love having the toggles there, but I also like having the toggles introduced in such a fashion that they have some sort of purpose for their location. And the main purpose is function. If I'm either dialing into or off of the bridge volume or the neck volume, I'm never bumping into these knobs. I mean, these toggles. That was very much intentional with that look, all these locations, especially that one, because if I had have added the toggles down here, I would have been spacing everything so that I would have guaranteed that a finger wouldn't have gotten into that. But I like the idea of keeping them up here, and it guarantees that they stay out of the way of the path of working the two volume controls. I'm not that type player, but there are a lot of players out there that they rely very heavily on just changing the volume in order to change the tone of the guitar, and that's brilliant. I can do that a little bit, but I'm not like the Joe Bonamassa types that really, really know how to work that item. Okay, so it starts from a very functional standpoint, but very quickly you realize after you've achieved, okay, I know I've got real nice clearance. Well, then let's just make certain that we've got these two toggles far enough off the sidewall of the guitar so that once we turn that guitar over, that we got plenty of clearance in there for the body of the guitar, because the inside body of this guitar was actually about 1 inch and 1/8 wide right here, all the way up to this point. I may be wrong about this, but I may have. Let me just stop talking because I can't remember. I do know that this location right here, it did get machined out in order to receive that three-way, and it might have been that it was already thin enough. I'm talking about the thickness of the sidewall of the body, was probably already narrow enough down here to receive that. And every bit of that design work, that started on the very front end before I was even gluing the body together. I was thinking about, making certain that I left enough room to do additional wiring in there because of, and that is my design per, like if I was just going to do a solid body guitar, and that's, I love that control cavity for the Flying V. It looks really good when you look at it from the back. It's a real simple, clean cover. And it also, if you ship it with just 3 potentiometers and the 3-way selector, then it allows the future builder to do just whatever they want. You could do anything you want. You got a lot of room down in here. You could even do uh, I thought about building like a range master circuit and actually installing it down in a body. You could actually probably install a range master circuit in there and have another control. There's just a sky's the limit when it comes to stuff like that. But so after you've achieved your functional design, then you make certain that you just put it so that it looks nice with the rest of the guitar. And also that it doesn't interfere with state remaining traditional, because it might be that you find 99% of the time you're just leaving the guitar in series. And then only very rarely maybe are you testing out, and this switch is incorrect. I'll talk about that in a minute. Well, let's just go ahead and talk about this. Uh, yeah, because I've spent enough time talking about functionality, whether this is series, split, parallel, all that jazz. So let's back up and talk about exactly kind of the difference. And I'll pull once we open up the pickups, I'll pull out the documentation or the chart that you get from Steve that company right there, Seymour Duncan. It shows you your options as how you can wire this guitar. And basically, the way that I've got this design, up is parallel, in the middle is a split coil, and the bottom is series. Now, is that some magical design that I did? No, absolutely not. It's just the orientation of the actual DPDT switch based on how Seymour Duncan tells me I'm supposed to wire that thing. And when I'm wiring that switch, I'm looking at it that, okay, I know that that a certain wire goes here, a certain wire goes there, a certain wire goes there, et cetera, and then certain lugs are actually just left blank or unwired. So anyway, so let's start talking about that. Let's talk about. Let me talk about a functional problem. Well, it's a mistake that I made when I ordered. See, I only had one switch that was an on circuit. And this switch is an on and on circuit, even though it has 6 lugs. And I made the mistake when I ordered this Carling, which is a really high quality switch. I didn't verify in the listing that it wasn't, in fact, set up to do 3 different positions. So just be aware of that. Position 1, position 2, position 3. Position 1, there is no position 2. Or there is no middle position. It goes straight to position. It's either on there or it's on there. It's either on up here, it's on in the middle, or it's on down there. So I messed up when I ordered this switch right after I sold the guitar and started buying all the parts for it. I was kind of I got in a little bit of a hurry, so made the assumption, okay, yeah, it's DPDT, and I didn't think about the importance of making certain that it was an on. So guess what's in the mail today? If not, probably already in the postal box. That new switch, which I ordered about 4 nights ago. So now I'll be able to do all my wiring. And let's go ahead and talk about this from a 1,000-foot perspective. When you're building a wiring harness, you're typically, for a custom guitar or any guitar, you're having to approach it from a standpoint of, am I able to build this whole guitar with the pickups connected to everything and just feed it into the body and then pull everything in location and pull it out of the body? To me, that would be like a one component harness and electronics. Everything is just basically one piece. But typically with the Gibson style guitars, at a minimum, you're working with 2 different components. You're working with the switch. If you're working with an Explorer or Les Paul replica or whatever, or even the real guitar, if you're restoring it, you're working with a 3-way switch component and all of the wires that come off of that three-way, and then you're feeding them through the body. We all know that, or most of us do. But with this particular guitar right here, I wanted or if you're working with the Explorer Replica, the same thing where you've got the three-way harness, and then you've got the real simple, the three-way would now be up here, or either other guitar. But now you've got to make the determination, is there some way that I can go ahead and solder the output jack, in, and then feed that output jack in and all that jazz. So now you're only working with two components. So the more efficient you can make your wiring harness, the better. And I've got this designed down to a two-component configuration so that when I've got this guitar upstairs in another bedroom and I've got my template that I'm working from, I can build this entire harness right here. And even with the output jack, everything is ready to just feed into that guitar and really minimize the risk of damage to the guitar. Just really helps. And it makes it far less stressful knowing that, hey, if my soldering gun, touches right here when it's hot, then guess what? It is hot because I'm about to do some solder work. So I got to make certain that I don't allow something like that to happen, because I don't want to be doing a wood burning class, on my multi-$1,000 Honduran Mahogany guitar. Okay, so I got it down to two components, and the when I say two components, I'm going to call both pickups just one component, because the way I'm going to finish this harness, now that my new double pole double throw switch should be in the mailbox upstairs, now I'm going to pull out the neck pickup, set it up here and protect it around some foam, and I'm going to go ahead and solder it in a double pole double throw I'm going to go ahead and solder it in a fashion so that once the toggle is up, as I've already clarified, it will be parallel, and when it's in the middle, it will be split, and when it is down, when both of them are down, as I mentioned earlier, I look at that guitar and I see a traditional 58 chambered body Flying V replica. Okay, I don't want these to be up for that to be the traditional guitar. In other words, series. That bothers me because it just bothers me. For the most part, when we walk in a room and we see a switch, we know that it's in like an off position or a down position or a starting position. So what does that equate to? That means that I will have to I'll have to solder my harness 180 degrees opposite from what they show on the paperwork. So just be aware of once you build your little components, so that once you're feeding it in your body, you're not having to contort it into a 180 degree turn where everything starts getting real wonky. But see, I've got this design right here where all this wiring is up on the top 11 o'clock position, or like we'll call it the 9 o'clock to the 1 o'clock position. What does that allow me to do? Well, right now, that allows my switch to function in this fashion right here, in line with this body. And I got to tell you, from a player's perspective, that's incredible. That's very fast and very comfortable to function with your pinky finger as you're doing your playing work. It's an excellent location. But if the client wanted it to be, if you wanted it to be more like the Les Paul, then you would be turning it counterclockwise in order to achieve the kind of the up and down. Well, it's just like a 45 degree with the center line. And so you might look at that harness thing, it's just a bunch of what wires. No, that's very intentional. That path is very intentional, and even the slack right here is very intentional to allow me to roll that. And I didn't put any tension on the solder joint anywhere. So you need to think along those lines if you're going to be a guitar builder and you really want to kind of blow people away with the fact that you're not restricted to just that straight in line path. If you want to turn it a little bit, that's cool, and you're not going to screw anything up by turning it. You can't turn it 180 degrees the other way, But why in the hell would you want to? Because, well, you couldn't. If you turned it 180 degrees the other way, then you'd end up with the bridge pickup in the up position and the neck pickup in the down. Okay, so I just want you to see the functionality of or the importance of designing your wiring harness so it is just that, very functional, and you know, it just works. In case I forget, no, let me stay on these double pull double throws. And I had mentioned this, so this is one component right here. I'm not talking about these three. What you see visually, that's one component, and it's basically a finished component. All it needs now is just the pickups to come down and either solder directly to the back of the potentiometer and go into the lug right there. I'm sorry that I had that screwed up. You want to make certain that that is very much not touching up there and grounding out. And that's why there is that slack there that allows that to come off that angle and go down with the other wire. And you might even do some wire tying if you want to. But with this configuration right here, if I had just a traditional pickup wire coming down a single lead, then I would be soldering to the back of that potentiometer and soldering to that lug right there. And that is the neck pickup. If I wanted to do a traditional bridge pickup, then I would be soldering to the back of that potentiometer on that corner and then soldering into that lug right there. I do not try to solder into, I wouldn't try to solder into that existing solder joint, because once I make a solder joint, I don't want to disturb it anymore. I would rather have multiple solder joint locations. Okay. And also, as the best you can, you want to try to keep all the specs on the potentiometer legible or noticeable, or so you can monitor, or someone can look at that and go, okay, yeah, he's already got 525K potentiometers on here. They're not 250 or something like that. So there's no sense in changing these if he changes the pickups and stuff. So do the best you can to keep all that stuff revealed. Okay, and I keep digressing. So that's component one. And I'm going to call this component two because I will be switching from your traditional lead pickup now over to the 4-conductor lead pickup, where you'll have the black, white, red, green, and then the bare wire coming down. And so you're going to have 5 wires going into one DP-DT switch, and then 2 wires coming off. You'll have a ground wire coming off, and you'll have the lead wire coming off over and going to that potentiometer. So obviously this, just by location, this one serves that one serves that one. So it's a very efficient design as well, but it's not cluttered. So, but it is component 2, because you almost could call it component. We'll call it 3 components, because the neck pickup will be soldered to this before it goes into the body. And then once all my solder work is real nice and clean, then I'll remove it from this. I'll go ahead and remove this component here, install it in the guitar, and then I will remove the neck pickup and this DP-DT switch from this template, feed it through the body, and these wires are hanging loose. Then I make, I'm sorry, let me back up. This has not been installed in the body yet. I can lay this atop the guitar and then pull this DP-DT switch that I have fed through the body outside the body over, and I've got all my back protected, extremely well protected. Make those 2 solder connections, and then feed the bridge pickup in, and let that DP-DT switch come out of the body that is obviously soldered, and then make those 2 connections, the ground and the lead, and now I'm ready to feed this whole harness down into the body. And that's how you build a hollow body guitar or a chambered body guitar, especially when you have this real small cavity right here. What would have been the other option? We'll cut out an enormous amount of the body just so that it makes it easy to do the soldering that you may only do once. It may never get changed, ever. And quite frankly, the more valuable the guitar is, it's because it was never tinkered with. So my theory was, I want the minimum size amount of access hole so I don't lose my tone. Okay? Self-explanatory. If you build mass-produced guitars, it's a different story. We're not building mass-produced guitars. We're building custom guitars that we want to spend 3 days, if not 5 days, doing certain operations in order for it to be done once and be finished, and at no risk of burning the guitar into like artwork. You may want that. You might want to burn your guitar up, but I'm not into that stuff. I don't really, as I said, I don't really care for distressing and relicking and all that stuff. But to me, this is the first time I've ever done this configuration because it was a little bit different in the last Flying V replica that I built. I can't even really remember exactly what I did. I take that back. I know I probably paid attention to that. I probably talked to the client about that. That guitar, it actually went to Boston. Not the hollow body. It was a solid body guitar, and that guy was actually gigging up in Boston, and a really cool guy. I can't really think of his name now. Oh, it's a shame. But anyway, he was a super nice guy, and he was real adamant about certain things as far as functionality, and that's cool. I love it when you're working with a client that really has a goal in mind of like, yeah, they're up on stage and they're trying to create a really nice show. A lot of it is just that, the showmanship. They need the functionality and the ease of looking down and knowing that, okay, yeah, I'm in series or I'm getting ready to play a different song and I want both of them to be in parallel. And they can just look down, when the lights are low and know exactly what that guitar is about to sound like when they pull the trigger on it. Okay. All right, check time. 26 minutes, a whole bunch of information. All right, let's talk about these pickups a little bit. Let's see, did I talk about that enough? Let me do a brief recap, and I won't spend too much time on this. So just know that if you were to put this down in the body, that would be brutal to try to pull this out and do all of that solder work atop the back of your finished guitar. Therefore, you would definitely be running the risk of, if you don't burn the guitar, you might have something on your tabletop that is scratching up the front of the guitar really bad. All the more reason why you still see this fretboard completely protected. That's one of the very last things that I'll take off. Well, no, I'll take that back. No, actually, that's true because I typically don't remove those until I'm getting ready to put a tailpiece back in and string it up and turn it back into a guitar. And the whole idea about this guitar, some of you already know this, but I like the idea: build the guitar rough, string it up as quickly as you can, start working through any bugs, get it really tweaked and where you want it, and play an incredible, as an acoustic guitar, whether it's chambered, hollow, or solid, makes no difference. And also it starts letting you hear the guitar. This is so important. As you hear the guitar acoustically, then you can start making determinations as to what it is you want to go with in order to achieve a certain tone. And I'll just stop there because that's just all based on personal preference. I'm an Alnico 5 guy. I like the sound of that pickup, but Chad was very, very, he was very crystal clear on the very front end that he wanted the Alnico 2. Like, that's awesome, man, because that tells me that's someone who knows exactly what tone they're trying to achieve. I think he might have asked my opinion, would it sound good in this guitar? And the answer immediately is, well, of course, because this guitar has the ability to be very bright acoustically anyway. It's not a real muddy type body wood. I'm not even going to mention what type of woods would create a real muddy guitar, but if you got real dark woods, it's probably going to be a really dark sounding guitar. And that's when I would probably tell the client, let's be careful with these Alnico 2s, because if we're going in an all walnut body with a Honduran mahogany neck and a rosewood fretboard, that might get a little bit muddy. Then I might make some suggestions, but that might be exactly what the client wants. And you have to know when to make suggestions, but then also when to keep your mouth shut or just, do what it is that they want. But if they ask you, be bold enough to tell them, your opinion. I don't even remember Chad and I having that conversation because I know that he was just very clear about what it was he wanted. And but if I had any hesitancy, I might have told him, let's be careful, unless that's what you really want. I might have just said, hey, this is what you can expect to get out of this particular guitar. Okay. All right. Now what? Let's talk about wiring just briefly. Let's do like an open box. And again, I've already done this. I did this video probably 3 or 4 nights ago. This is what you can expect when you open up your brand new pickups from Seymour. And the cool thing is it will definitely say neck on there, so don't get spooked. And the fact, see, sometimes it doesn't say Seymour Duncan on it, and you might get confused. Oh, you know what, which one's the bridge and which one's the neck? Well, it'll definitely tell you on there, N-E-C-K. That stands for neck. And then the orientation, well, it's definitely going to go in that location right there. And there's your bridge, but get that back in place. And then you will definitely be getting your, 2 machine screws in your spring. But to me, this is the most important part. This information is online, but there's nothing more important than having a piece of paper that you can just sit there and kind of study. This will actually show you how that would be a Les Paul or Les Paul replica. So, we've all seen this before, or most of us have. But see, the cool thing about this, I need a pointer if I can find one. Sorry, guys. I don't really have a pointer stick, but where I'm going is the cool thing about this drawing here, it actually shows the 4-conductor wired functionality. And I don't know if you can see that, but let's just talk about this briefly. Basically, you have the black wire and the red wire, the green wire, the white wire, and the bare wire. So there's 5 wires coming out of each of these pickups. If you wanted to go into the realm of the 4-conductor world, then you've got to individually wire each of those pickups in each of these wires in a certain location on that lug, which is either on the other side, which is allowing you to either do phase switching or to do series parallel with a push-pull, or series split parallel with an own mini toggle. That's the world we're working in right there. We're doing series parallel and split. But if you want to just do coil splitting atop a push-pull volume, then this is the wiring you'd be doing right there. And I could see that probably being really useful for like a Telecaster bridge location, where rather than in other words, in lieu of the single Telecaster pickup, you do a humbucker, but you still want to be able to achieve that tele sound from time to time. Well, then you could do the coil splitting in the bridge location with that orientation right there. And see, up here is a small schematics of. I'm sorry. This is the one that just shows the standard wiring, like the single lead. Okay. So in other words, this would be the wiring schematics for doing the single lead, and this would be the wiring schematics for doing a double pole, double throw type wiring, and this would be doing turning a 4-conductor pickup into a single lead simply by taking the white wire and the red wire and soldering them together and pulling them to the side, and then soldering the green and the bare wire together, and then soldering it to the back of the potentiometer. Therefore, it now becomes the ground. The black will always, apparently in Seymour Duncan, the black wire will always eventually end up being the lead wire. Even if you're coming off the double pole, double throw switch going over to your potentiometer, well, you'll be jumping from wherever the black wire from the pickup came into the bottom corner of that DPD switch. Well, then that's where you'll be continuing over to the potentiometer. And then by switching through the DPDT switch, that will determine whether it is sending a parallel, split, or series to the actual volume knob. Okay. And again, I know just enough about wiring to kind of just give you the 1,000-foot view. There's a myriad of different options you could go through. But with this single piece of paper, according to what it is you get. And if you don't, obviously, if you're buying used, then you can get this stuff online. You can print it off, whatever you want to do. I like the idea of having a piece of paper because being old school, I like the idea of being able to mark it up or make notes or ask questions, or because I've got a question about orientation for, how do I assure myself that when I toggle up, I'm actually in parallel. And when I toggle down, as I've already clarified, that I'm truly in series, which is the traditional guitar. The middle is a given because it's just always going to be split. Because again, remember, this guitar here, we're working in this world right here. I've never done any phase switching on a guitar. I don't really care for that sound, and I think it's a one-trick pony. But that doesn't mean that that you might not like that. And if you do like just doing the phase switching, then your double pole double throw switch only needs to be an on switch, like that one that I showed you right there, where I toggled up and it was on, or I toggled down, there was no middle position. That would be that switch right there, which I ordered incorrectly. Okay, so there you have it. And to give you just a brief run through of what do the colors of each wiring represent. Okay, if you've got this 4-conductor wire here, let me just open this up. Don't want to rush this because these are not the thickest wires in the world, and I want to handle them with caution. Okay, so obviously there are your 5 wires. I hope you can see that according to what's in the background. But basically, over here, that's the bare wire. There's the green wire. There's the white wire. And here's the red wire. Let's do this. Let's put the black and the white wire over here. And let's put the red and the green wire over here, and the bare wire right there. This represents the north coil, and that represents the south coil. The black and the white wire represent the north coil. The green and the red represents the south coil, and then the bare wire represents the ground. Okay. Now we can talk about this just briefly, and that's exactly what I have just written here. The bare is always ground. The black is the north start. I'm talking about the coil, the north coil, the coils. There's a north coil and a south coil. The black is always the north start, which is the I call it the high. It's the lead. The white is the north finish. The green is the south start, which can become the ground if you change it over to a single lead pickup. The red is the south finish. And then to do series link, the red and the white wire get pulled over to the side and soldered together. So if I wanted to turn this into just a traditional pickup, then the red and the white, make sure I don't misspeak, the red and the white. I'm just repeating what I said a few minutes ago. So what I would be doing is soldering the red and the white wire together, taping them off or putting heat shrink over it, folding it back. I'm through with that wire. And I would actually recommend putting a little bit of tape around that, or a heat shrink back there, to just really protect that wiring. Because like if you're dragging it through the body, you don't want anything to, like a piece of a little bit of epoxy that might have dripped in a diamond fashion or a teardrop fashion and has a sharp point in there. If it happened to just by weird chance catch that, it could tear those two apart. So you want to make certain that you really protect that once you do your wiring. And then your green and your bare would get twisted together, soldered on the end. And don't tape those off, because what's going to happen now, once you feed this down to your potentiometer, you're no longer going to be able to go to a double pole, double throw, but you'll be able to go to the back of the potentiometer. You'll be able to go to the back of the potentiometer with the green and the bare, and then the black, which is the lead, will go to that lug right there. And when you're looking at them from the back, this lug right here, and everything I've seen for the Gibson manufacturing, it gets soldered to the back of the potentiometer. The lug in the middle receives the wiring from the three-way. Okay, and then obviously on the right side there, that's where the lead from the pickup will always go. Excuse me, will always go on the right side. Okay, so green and bare become the ground wire. The black remains the lead. Which what is the black? It's the north start. Okay, and I told you just enough about wiring. Basically, all I told you was just what I just read. Do I really understand a lot of this stuff? No, actually, no, I don't. I don't. I do understand that there's. No, I'm not going to go there. Just study up a series in parallel, because I would do you a disservice to explain to you how simple it is, and it's just that if you're running in series, you're going to get the fatter, warmer sound because you're exiting the north coil going into the south coil before you go to the potentiometer. If you're running in parallel, you're just running both of them side by side, kind of like a Telecaster where you have the middle pickup and the bridge pickup, the neck pickup. You're just pushing them basically side by side. So think along the lines of two pickups just being pushed side by side. Okay. I shouldn't have attempted to explain that, but I think I did an okay job, at least enough to get you pointed in the right direction as to how to get. Let me check the time. Can't believe it's under an hour. It's 41 minutes, but there's something that's fairly important to talk about here. Well, the most important thing is to protect your client's investment. So let me get this back together. Make sure that's the bridge. Sorry, yeah, that is the bridge. And before you do your wiring, especially if you removed it, well, even if you didn't remove it, if you just open up that box, just verify that you're actually wiring up the actual appropriate pickup. Sorry, but I can't risk just pushing these two pickups over to the side and assuming that I'm not going to drop a screwdriver on them and screw them up really bad. Now I know they're safe. And before I mention, Chad, your schematics will go back in this case, and obviously you'll get this full case back, and I'll be doing any wiring work from my schematics. Okay, but one thing I was going to talk about before I end the video is the orange drops. Well, capacitors have an orientation. Okay? There's a ground side, and there's a let me back up. There's a side that needs to be put to the ground location, and how you can assess that. Basically, what it boils down to, these two leads are coming in here. There's a foil connection. There's an outer foil and an inner foil, and I don't really know what the material is between them. I know in these Russian capacitors that I have right here, these are paper and oil, and those are pretty rare capacitors that I've had forever for a custom Les Paul replica that I'm building. But with these orange drops, you need to determine which side is best to go to ground. And I find that orientation by connecting. I'll just show you how I do it. You've got basically you could use an amplifier, but just go online and this would, I don't use an actual amplifier connected to the wall. I plug into a small, like a Boss BR80 or a little Zoom, what's it called? A cord, little Pandora or something like that. But I do actually, I don't run it off the battery. I actually run it through my power strip over here, and I turn the little item off. But I have this clamped to my table, and then I basically just I take a pencil eraser and I hold it down, and then I can determine. Then I turn my little zoom on. I keep calling it a zoom. I turn on the little Korg or the Boss, and then it'll start humming a little bit like, and then you want to reach down and just touch the capacitor, and if it starts humming more, then you know that you've got it reversed. turn off your a little amplifier or whatever it is you're using, flip it 180 degrees, push that down, and see I'm pushing that down onto the ground side and that one on the lead side, and then turn the little amplifier, like if you've got like those little desktop mini amp or micro amp, turn it back on, and now reach up and touch this, and you should not hear any hum at all. You should be able to touch that and it not hum. That lets you know you have your orientation correct. And that's why when you see this black, that black Sharpie mark right there, that lets you know, or it lets anyone in the future know that whoever built this harness took the time to verify that the capacitor was in fact installed properly. And if you install them 180 degrees off, you'll have unnecessary hum in a guitar that otherwise didn't need to be there. Okay. Do a little bit of research on that. Do a little bit of research, and just go online, and it's pretty cool. They are all, and don't. All I'll say is this: see these two right here, how they have the marking on the face. You might think, well, they're always going to be on the left. Not with this one. So apparently, they produce these, and they just get fed through a stamping machine, and it is our job as the builder to verify which side is in fact supposed to be to the ground. Okay, makes a big difference, or it might make all the difference, especially for well, for anybody. If you want a nice, quiet, clean guitar, whether you're in the studio, whether you're touring, or whether you're just you playing in the basement. Okay. All right, I'm gonna check the time, but most likely I'm just gonna stop talking because I've already covered enough information to just let you know to think through certain things. And let me check the time. Wow, 46 minutes. It'd be awesome if I can just stop talking. I only say that because I do the best I can to keep these videos short, but as I've said, my God, there's a ton of information. And when I first started building guitars, none of this was available, not that I could find. And obviously, YouTube had just really kind of started taking off, probably in maybe 2004 or so. But back in the 80s and 90s, and which when we were beginning to tinker as kids, we were having to read a magazine, that we got from the local bookstore, and hope to God that somebody put like a schematics in there as to, how did Eddie Van Halen wire his guitars, or what did this guy do for a certain tone, or how do you get a jazz tone, how do you get a country tone, stuff like that. We didn't really have that stuff. So on that note, I want to apologize for giving you as much information as I can, or at least giving you enough information to kind of push you in a direction so that you can find what it is you want yourself. So I appreciate you guys dropping in, and next time you see this guitar, it'll probably be I may be installing the harness and show you a little bit. Let me put it this way: if I run into something that I deem worthy of doing a short video, then I'll do a short video or something like that. But for the most part, I'll probably just make note of it and then clarify things. Something like this right here, where I did all this design, but I didn't think about the importance of that gap right there. And I mean, it just barely, the little DPDT switch just barely would not slide between that. So what did I do? Did I panic and freak out? No, man, I took my crosscut small micro file and I rounded over that edge, and I gave it just enough room for that item to slip through there. Because as I mentioned, component one, I want to wire the neck pickup and the DPDT switch ready to rock and roll in, and then slide it in and feed it in. And then I want to wire the bridge DPDT switch, feed it in, and then as I mentioned, do all that wiring and put it together. So, if I had designed this to where all this was solid up here, it would have been no big deal. I would have just been feeding the actual pickup wire through the body of the guitar, out the back, protect with my life the back, the finish of the guitar, do all the solder work there, and then feed it in. It's just, so design and function will definitely dictate how you do your job sometimes. Okay, I'll see you guys. Sorry about that. Let me think. What else? Nothing else to talk about. I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks.